And she was doing the PhD, right? The PhD there in the chemistry department. And she's an expert of a little bit what she's going to talk today about ultrafast dynamics, although she's just telling me that she's also doing some other stuff. And this part that I didn't know is that she's also combining machine learning. So this is going to be a little bit the main topic of the talk. So please, Jin, well, sorry. So Jin Wen moved, and now she's permanent in China, in Donghua University. It's in Shanghai. They have many universities there in Shanghai. I just learned recently. So yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here, Jin. And so please just go ahead.
Thank you. First, I would like to appreciate Antonio to invite me here. As he mentioned, we met each other more than 18 years ago, 17 years ago. So when I was a student in Colorado, we are doing some electronic state structure calculations about excited state. And then after moving I spent 2 years in University of Vienna with the Professor Letizia Gonzalez. So some of you might know her. And then I moved my topic from the excited states electronic structure into the ultrafast dynamics simulations. So I'm going to talk about what I did after I'm moving back to China. So first, let me just introduce a little bit about my university. Even when I give talk in China, some people ask, where's the location of your university? Due to the name, people get confused. So actually, maybe you know, this is the airport, I think maybe somewhere here. So when you travel to China, excuse me. Okay, I can keep talking when he is adjusting. So maybe you are familiar with this area, that's the airport. And then that's the city center of Shanghai. And we have 2 campuses. The old campus is inside of the city, and this is the eastern part of my campus. So you see we have a big lake and a lot of birds, like black swans and some and also some ducks. So that's like the very nice view of my university, sorry. And then that's the department of the relate to the material science. So I think this kind of like overlap with our institute today. So this is the outlet of my talk. And then I will give you some brief introduction about ultrafast dynamics. Maybe some of you are familiar with this. And then I will cover 3 topics in my group recently we did. One about, so mostly they are related to the machine learning. We can speed up the ultrafast dynamic simulations from, now we can simulate the ultrafast from a few picoseconds to like a 10 or 20 picoseconds. And then in the last of the talk, I will show you some brief topic about our recent development for the optical control in the photochemical reactions. So yeah, as I just mentioned, we are interested in the either photophysics or photochemistry. So in the photophysics, there's like luminance phenomena, and in the photochemistry, we have the reaction. So I will mostly cover the reaction part today. And then we can compare, that's different time scale. About the protein folding we see, we have this from maybe from the microsecond to the seconds, even hours. So we have to go through this transition state in the ground state. And it depends on the barrier of the transition state. So it could take from hours to days. And then in the comparison, what is the ultrafast dynamics? So it's about, first it relates to a few like electronic state. We can do either the singlet, so we have this singlet excited states, and also the triplet. So it depends on the coupling between different electronic states, and then we can see either the excitation can go through this overlap region, so either it's avoid crossing or conic intersection, and then so that's how the reaction can be much faster than at the thermodynamic region. So it could be from what we are interested in the region from the femtosecond to the picosecond scale. And then, so this is like the long history, since people, the people can derive spectroscopy to monitor the reaction of some small molecule, and then usually people use pump probe technology, and then they can first excite the molecule, and then the second laser pulse to detect the reaction, the process of the reaction, and then so here I separate these two regions, one from the strong field. So some people are using from the attosecond to the femtosecond, the laser field is very strong, and then it can, so the molecule can absorb multi-photon. And then the other is what usually chemistry is related about, from the reaction path goes from the picosecond to the nanosecond. And then the intensity is not very strong. So in this region, we can see if we can use the multiple absorption of the photon, and then the reaction path or the potential curve can be tuned like this. We can tune the potential curve. And then if we use like this time domain control, and then if we can use different time delay, and then if we and then the chemical reaction product can be tuned, like here, this one and this one. So the important thing is how we can use either the pump probe to understand the photochemical reaction. The second is whether we can tune the photochemical reaction. So first, we would like to understand the mechanism of it, and then so that's how people use in the experimental group. They can use different technical for to monitor the chemical reaction, and then to see the photo dissociation. And then also, if they use different, the different region of the pump and the probe, and then they can use the control, the second laser pulse as a control, and then they can get different photochemical reactions. And then, what is the challenging? Mostly, I think, I'm not from the experimental group, but what I've learned is usually they have to make a trade-off between the temporal and the spatial resolution. So they can do very ultra-fast absorption, and also they can have to make very high resolution for this temporal, spatial region. And then they have to make a very complicated equipment to construct the optical field. And then, but since I'm from the theoretical part, and what we are doing is to first to review the reaction. So we have to construct the different electronical states, either like I just mentioned, like the singlet state or the triplet state. So we have to understand first the electronic structure in the excited states. Second, we have to understand the crossing region. So it could be different type of the the topology could be different in the crossing region. So we have to understand the non-adiabatic transition. And the second is, if we go to complex system, as I just mentioned here, we have only 4 or 5 atoms. If we go beyond this region, and then we have more than 10 or even 20 atoms, what we can do? We have to separate the degree of freedom to understand the photochemical reaction. So that's how so that's why in my group recently we developed different machine learning methodology. So I just go through quickly with the second, this is observed in the experimental group. If they can use different order of the UV pump, and then the probe could be, the second pump can be used in the IR region, and then another probe is the IR, and then they can tune the vibrational excitation, and then the directional control can be detected with the photo-induced electron transfer pathway. And then the second one is if we can use different this non-adiabatic control, and then the reaction ratio can be also controlled. So using this adiabatic path or the electronical non-adiabatic path, so the product will be totally different. So this is how people can do beyond theory, and then in the experiment, they can do different on different systems, but they have to set up the parameters in the optical field, and then what we would like to do is to predict the reaction before the experiments. So this is how we usually do in the non-adiabatic dynamic simulations. There are different types of methods. The first one is, we call it quantum dynamics. It's the most exact method. We treat the nuclear quantum dynamics, quantum mechanically, and then, but it's also very expensive. So usually people can use the which is called multi-layer and multi-configuration time-dependent Hamiltonian. And then in that case, then they can treat beyond from maybe to 10 atoms. But we still need to go further. So another way, another method is called ab initio multiple spawning. In that way, so the wave packet of the nuclear is summarized as the coupled Gaussian functions. So it still run in the classical trajectory, and then they can treat the quantum effect somehow in comparison with what I'm using in my group. We're using the mixed quantum classical method, which called like trajectory surface hopping. In this method, we understand, first we interpret the potential energy surface of the electron, and then the nuclear just propagate from along the potential energy surface, but we treat the nuclear classically. So we need to run some a bunch of trajectories, and then to understand that in the statistically. But the problem is, in comparison with the first two methods, we don't have any nuclear quantum effect. So in case if there's a tunneling or some like a proton transfer, maybe in this method cannot treat well. And another one, which is called Ultrafast, in compare with is similar to, it's still like a mixed quantum classical method, but the electron was treated in like a mean field. And then the problem is they cannot give the exact branch ratio if you want to simulate a photochemical reaction. So next, what I'm going to talk about is we mostly focus on the surface, like trajectory surface hopping method. And then next I will give you some information how we do with the machine learning protocol. So as I just mentioned, we need to get the potential energy surface of the electron of different electronic states. So we have to use different neural network to construct first the potential surface in both ground state and excited states. If we have multiple excited states involved, we have to construct all of them. So this is the most difficult, challenging part. And then we also, since we have the potential, and then we can also have the gradient. So then, which means the force, we can have the gradient. And then the second, we have to construct the non-adiabatic coupling. As I just mentioned, if you have coupling in different electronic states, and then we have to understand that. But we have also some different assumption, and then we can do, and then we have to do, the other is the dipole moment, because if we want to control the excitation in different electronic states, we have to understand, we have to monitor the dipole moment and also the transition dipole moment. So if we have constructed the neural network for these different variables, and then we can, there are several pioneer groups, they have using the similar idea to do the quantum dynamics, like the classical, mixed quantum classical dynamic simulations. So there are several groups, like Professor Cui. They are some of them are from China, so Professor Cui, Lan, and this is from a lady used to work in Austria, and now she's working in Germany, and also Professor Lee's group, and several of them. So most of them, we are doing the same with like a neural network to construct the potential surface. That's how we can, but the difficulty comes with the dimension. If we have larger system, and then the dimension of the neural network increase, and then it's getting more and more difficult. The second is I'm going to cover some of recent development in our group. We have to know the reaction coordinates. That's also important, because if you know the reaction coordinates, and then you can simulate the chemical reaction. So that's the one topic. And then the second one is we can use time series model. So in the time series model, we don't need to interpret the reaction coordinates. We just run a short term of trajectories like this. We can run a short term trajectories, and then we can predict the long term dynamics. So usually people use this is called long short term memory. So in this case, some of the we are interested in the evolution of the electronical states. So if the evolution of the electronic states came in like a periodical, so we can see this in a periodical pattern, and then we can interpret this with a very like a long standard neural network. And also recently, Professor Zhao's group, he has a permanent position in Xiamen in China. And then they have also developed like a 4-dimensional space-time. So the fourth is the time, and the other 3 is about the spatial. So then they can also construct this kind of like a neural network to simulate, especially for organic molecules. In the past, all these other people have done successfully either in the quantum dynamic, open quantum and the model systems, also the condensed phase. In the condensed phase, they made the assumption the nuclear didn't move that much, so that's how they just they are interested in the evolution of the electronic states. So now I'm going to cover 2 models in the machine learning region, and then first I will give you some information about the time series model we have developed, a little bit different what they have done. So now in our time series model, we use this ordinary differential equation. In the ordinary differential equation, we can get any physical properties. So these physical properties can either be the electronical state or any energy gap between different electronic states. So any physical properties you can use, and then we can use this like a derivative equation, and then if we can construct this function, we can predict from the observed phenomenon to get some interpretation. And then using the same similar idea, if we can use the neural network, so here we use this function as a latent variable, so we can use this latent variable as a neural network, and then we can go from the ordinary differential equation to the neural ordinary different equation. So then, which means all this curve can be continuously, and then we can interpret any variable like physical variables in the prediction region. So which means we can speed up the propagation we run short trajectory and then predict the long term. And then so here this is we constructed 2 type of models related to the time series model. First one we call continuous normalization flow. In this flow, we have as I just mentioned, we are interested in the evolution of the electronic states. So what we are interested in, these physical properties are the energy gap between different excited states, or the excited states and the ground states. So that's the energy gap between different electronic states, and then also the distribution of this energy gap. So after we construct this neural network to then we can propagate from using this, we call that the state transition, and then we can understand whether the electronic states stay in which so we are interested in the active states, which are whether it's in the excited states or in the ground state. So that's how people usually do like the surface hopping. So then we use this state transition to estimate. So this is the whole structure of our model. So we constructed 3 models. The first is, as I just mentioned, is the continuous normalization model. So in this model, we just need to know the energy gap. As I just mentioned here, this is the ground state, and the other 2 are excited states. So we can estimate the energy gap for all these electronic states, and then using this model, we can interpret from this time, and then using another, like the other longer time, and then we can predict the evolution of the energy gap and also the population and the distribution of this energy gap. The second one is we construct a neural network to make a connection between the energy gap and the non-adiabatic coupling. As I just mentioned, if we have the electronic structure method, we can calculate the non-adiabatic coupling. But in most of the cases, it's very complicated and very expensive. So if we can, but the non-adiabatic coupling depends on the energy gap. If the energy gap is very small, and then the non-adiabatic coupling is huge. So they could be some discontinuously. So then we want to have like this neural network, and then we can combine the energy gap and the non-adiabatic coupling. The third one is we want to know whether the state could change. So we use this called transition probability matrix. So in this matrix, and then we can estimate. So let me take this for example. So this stands for the ground state, and then this is the first excited state, and then this is the second excited state. So if this is 1, means the active state is the second excited state. So and then if we have this transition probability, and then we can estimate the next step, whether the next step goes into the first excited state or go back to the ground state. So that's how we can understand the propagation of the trajectories. So in this case, we just need to know energy. First, we just need to know the energy gap and their distribution. For the rest, we don't need to know. We don't need to know the exact coordinates, and we don't need to know the chemical any chemical information. So here is our example. We have tried to with these small molecules, and they are cations, and then we can see this is the energy gap after excitation of 20 femtoseconds, and then after 100 femtoseconds. This is from the ground truth from the surface hopping dynamics, and then this is our prediction. So this contour is from is the energy gap between the first excited state and the ground state, and also this is the second excited state and the first excited. So we can see the energy gap shift, and also we can simulate them very successfully. And then also similar to the second one, we can also have very good prediction for the population evolution. So, and then we can go, if we want to know whether it can be useful for all the cases. So, and then the second one, we construct for the Hamiltonian neural network. In comparison with the first, the previous model, in the previous model, we just need to know some photophysical properties. We don't need to know the chemical reactions. But in this model, we need to construct the Hamiltonian with the Hamiltonian canonical equations, and then with the constraint for the, we use 2 degree of freedom. It's like the internal coordinates, and also the internal coordinates, and also the general momentum. And then that can be used as a physical constraint during the construction of this neural network. And then you can see we can derive the flow of this is the excited states, and this is the ground states. And then we can see whether the vector field to see how it changed. And then we can make a comparison with the previous model. So in this case, the molecule is a little bit floppy, and then we can find in flowing, the red curve is what we simulate with the previous model, and this is the ground truth. And in comparison, in the ground truth, it could not give the correct prediction after 20 femtoseconds. So it should go down, but it in like this pattern. And then we want to understand, I will show you later, why in some of the case, the CNF model works, in some of the case, it doesn't work. So in this fluorine molecule, we find out there are a lot of in the crossing region, there are a lot of back hop. So in this case, we cannot, if we have just know the energy gap between different electronic states, we cannot get the correct, the hopping probability. So that's why this is the first case why it couldn't give the correct prediction. And the second is we want to understand whether this photochemical reaction dominates by some of the reaction coordinates. So here is the example. This is the stretching of the CC double bond. And then this is the evolution of the CC double bond along the 60 femtoseconds. And then in the HNN model, we can predict the evolution of these reaction coordinates. And we also make a test for another molecule, which is called acrolein. And then in this photochemical reaction, not only the singlet excited states involved, but also the triplet state excited states involved. So then not only about the overlap between the singlet states, we should also make a neural network to construct the spin orbital coupling. So in this case, we have using the similar machine learning model to construct these photodynamic simulations, and then we can have the population evolution for both the green curves are the singlet, and the green, the red and the purple for the triplet. So then, from comparing with the ground truth, we also get very correct, a very excellent prediction. And then the training is from the first 500 femtoseconds, and then we predict for the rest 500 femtoseconds. And then we want to see why, in some of the case, the CNF model works, but in some other case, it doesn't work. So we also try it with a bigger, larger system, like more than 20 atoms, and then it's, we just show you a small case, it works. And then the important thing is we can speed up the simulation by 20 times. And then we want to see, the first case is for time series model, we want to know how long we need to run for the training set. So then we use this called memory, we construct this memory index to understand how long we should, we can construct. And then in this case, we make this the vector can be any photophysical problems. And then we can use, here we use the population. So we construct as from the first case, it's the cutoff, we call that the TM. And then there are two regions. And then we make a cutoff at the TM. So here we can make the curve like this way. And then if we have the memory index is equal to 2, and then we can make a comparison that this, the cutoff, the TM, is long enough. So here we can find out for all these 4 cases, and then they are either roughly from if we run only 47% of the long trajectory, and then it can predict very long, very well for the longer term. So then in most of the cases, in our comparison, we find out from, if we just need from 40 to 50 percent of the trajectories, and then we can predict for the rest of either 50% or the 60%. And then the second one is we want to make a comparison between this CNF and HNN model. So we make, this is the eta, we make to see the contribution of each of the vibrational model in the photochemical reaction. And we find out in the first case, in the first 2 cases, these 2 models are very successful, the CNF model. We can see all the contributions either from the bond stretching or either the valence bond or the valence angle. Their distribution are very even. They are not too much like a dominant contribution in this region. So you can see we have the most of cases like the stretching of the CN bond or the the stretching of the CC bond or the bending of the carbon-carbon-carbon angle. So there are not many, so the distribution is very even. They are not too much dominant. So that's why we think in this case, if there are no single nuclear coordinate dominates the transition, and then the CNF model could work. And in other case, so here is the challenging one for the CNF. In comparison with the first two cases, you can see the stretching of the CC double bond dominates. So that's why this is the first case. We have to use the H&N model. In H&N model, we have this Hamiltonian canonical coordinates. So we have to use any chemical reaction coordinates to construct this model. So, and the second one is it has as I just mentioned, if it has the back hopping, and then we have to make construction with the chemical information included in the neural network. And also for the second case is the same. So in this case, for the acrolein, and we have this dominate the carbon stretching, the CC double and single and double bond, and also the CO double bond stretching. So they are dominate reaction coordinates. So that's why in this case we have to use the H&N model. So this is my first topic about the machine learning region, and we constructed two types of construction of the neural network. And then if we have, like here, if you have any model that doesn't need to use doesn't need any information of the chemical reaction coordinates, and then maybe the CNF model should work. For the second one, if there are either the back hopping cases, and also there are some dominant reaction or the vibrational model, and then the H&N model is indeed needed. And then the second one, I will cover some about the potential energy surface based. So it's the similar for what people usually do. We have to understand the photochemical reaction, especially the one important case is we have to use the correct electronic structure. So here we made a comparison between different electronic structure. So for some of the case, like this is the isomerization. So in this case, the molecule can twist and in this region, and then this at the nonadiabatic region, and then if we use the wrong, this is the time-dependent density functional theory, so TDDFT method, and then this could give very wrong prediction along the potential energy surface. So that's why usually we compare with the the multi-state or multi-configuration electronic structure, but it's very expensive. So in this case, that's why we need to construct the potential energy surface correctly with either the correct, the accurate electronic structure, but if it's too expensive, we have to find another way to do it. So here is the example. If we, as I just mentioned, this is a typical molecular, like for the isomerization, which is called the molecular motor. So in this case, there are two parts. The first part is, we call that stator. The stator is this part, and the lower part is the rotator. So the stator part is just floppy, like the butterfly of the wing. The second part is the rotational part. So we have to know, if we know two important reaction coordinates, the first one is the torsion angle, like we call alpha. The second one is the flopping of these two wings, and then we call that beta. So we don't need to run a full dimension or the full high-dimensional potential energy surface with a very expensive electronic structure. So we just need to construct for like roughly hundreds of points during construction of the potential energy surface. So that's why as I just mentioned, we are very familiar with this typical chemical reaction. So we just need to construct with the constrained potential energy surface along this alpha and beta coordinates. And then in each of the coordinates, we have just roughly 10 interval. So that totally, we just need 100 atoms. 100 points. So then we can use this like a hybrid method to construct the potential surface. So the first is which we call that kernel rigid regression. So in this case, we have, since we have very small number of training set, we don't need to use very complicated, like more layers of for the neural network. And the second, since we only consider about 2 reaction coordinates, how about the other degree of freedom? So then we treat the other degree of freedom at the force field level, which is very cheap. And then for this, we construct the whole potential energy surface just using a few small number of training sets. And then this, like the typical protocol we do, like for calculating the hopping probability using the Drew-Nakamura method. And also, so that's how we use after constructing of the potential energy surface analytically, and then we can run it, and then we can speed up the simulations by 2 orders of magnitudes. So here is just a movie you can see on the left, and then we want to see we can make a comparison between these 2 models, and then here this is what we have predicted. So the evolution of the alpha angle is the torsion angle. The second is the pyramid, like the bend for the stator part. So here we make a comparison with what is we construct with the KRR model, and this ADC2 is the on the fly for the exact with the electronic structure calculations. So we can see they have very similar prediction, and then we can make a comparison with how fast if we use the pure electronic structure calculations, and then this we use with the machine learning protocol. And then we can speed up by 2, as I just mentioned, by 2 orders of magnitude. And then since I'm also almost running out of my time, I will just a little bit speed up. And then for the more smaller, that's for one molecule. And then how about the complex? We want to understand whether if we can simulate the nonadiabatic dynamic simulations in a confined space. So here we construct this, we made the construction of a potential energy surface. For this, we call it supramolecule. So we have, this is the gas, the molecule, and then the cage is the host. So we want to see whether the gas, the molecule can do isomerize either within the cage or get outside the cage. So here we want to make a, as I just mentioned, we want to make a comparison with the high accurate method, and then use the QMMM model. The MM is the force field level, and then in the force field level, we treat the cage. For the isomerized, the gas molecule, we use the accurate method. So we can make a construction. So as I just mentioned, for the first case, we want to find out the important reaction coordinates. So for the motor I just mentioned, we just care about isomerization of the torsion angle and also the sloping of the stator part. And then for this supramolecule, we want to estimate the center distance between the host and the gas molecule. So we call it D. So that's the center distance. The second important reaction coordinates we find it's the carbon-oxygen bond length. So here, so we use these 2 reaction coordinates to construct this potential energy surface, and we find out this along these reaction coordinates, and then the photochemical. So that's we can find the photochemical reaction mechanism. And then we can, similar to what I have mentioned earlier, so we construct, so in this case, we just run roughly hundreds of points then to construct the machine learning potentials. Different with the first case. In the first case, we treat the other degree of freedom at the classical force field level. But in this case, we treat the other reaction coordinates. We project the other reaction coordinates into these 2 important coordinates. So in this case, we use a reduced dimensional neural network. The important thing is we still want to simulate whether the valence bond, the CO bond could open or not, and also we want to see whether the gas molecule can get out. So here is the simulation we run in the gas phase, and also in the confined space. So we can make the first comparison with the gas phase. This is the calculation. It's like the ground truth we run with the CAS-CF. One of the most expensive calculation we can carry out. And then in comparison with the DFT and also our machine learning potential results. So they can get all these different configurations of this supramolecule is called the ring closed. And this is the ring opening, and this is the totally open, the isomerized structure. And also we make a comparison in the confined space. So in the confined space, we find the ring opening. This is the trajectory of the valence bond length and also the center distance. And then they get very similar results. So from our simulation, we find out the effect of the confined space could speed up the reaction. And the second point is actually the isomerized occur within the cage. So it's not. We thought at the beginning maybe during the opening of the gas molecule, the steric effect could make the gas molecule outside of the cage. But actually, after the simulation, we find out it occur within the cage. And then then I will give very fast into some applications we run. Since we know we want to have the potential energy surface, and then we can construct. So we use this is called the optical field control theory. In this, there are two types of theory. So first is called optimal control theory. In this theory, we construct we want to make a maximum between the target and the target functional and the object functional. And then if the overlap between this is large, and then we can derive the results for the simulation so we can construct this optical field and then to make derive the final functional. And then in this case we can combined with this optimal control theory with the quantum dynamic simulations. But the problem is first it needs an iterative operation. So we need to make a lot of calculations, and usually from this theory, the electronic field construct is very difficult for the experimental people to manipulate in the experiment. And then the other one is called the local control theory. And in comparison with the first one, it's not iterative. The second one is we just need to use some, we use any physical target operator, and then the optical field is constructed in this way. So it's not, we don't need to do iterative calculations. And then we can combine it with some machine learning protocol for complex systems. And then this is the case. If we use the local control theory, this is the shape of the laser field from the prediction, and then it can be easily to interpret for the experiments. And then, so as I just mentioned, we run the case for first, we try to see whether we can speed up the rotation of the molecular motor. And then, this is the case we run for if we have the constraint, the constrained potential energy surface, with only care about the torsion angle and the sloping angle. And then, as I just mentioned, I have run, and we find out all the calculation, all the dynamics finished at 2 picoseconds. And that's a problem for after since we construct this potential energy surface with only 2 degrees of freedom. So then we want to see whether we can have full potential energy surface with a high dimensional surface. So then we find out actually if we care about the whole potential energy surface, and then we have to increasing the number of training points, and then we use the enhanced sampling. For the enhanced sampling, we can cover higher region of the photochemical reaction. So then the training set is more than 10,000 points. So in comparison with what we had only 100 points in the constrain the potential energy surface. But if we want to know the full potential energy surface, we have more than 10,000 points. In that case, we have the whole dimensional surface, and then we can run the dynamic simulations and then actually we find out the reaction should last longer than 20 picoseconds. So first we find the difference. If we have the constrained potential surface, it might give some limited reaction region. And then if we have the full potential surface, and then the simulation should run much longer. And the second is, as I just mentioned, we want to use some optical field to control the reaction. So, and then we use this vibrational control, and then the vibrational control just controlled in the ground state. Why we use that for the ground state? Because in the beginning of the excitation, all the wave package was very confined in the confined space, and then we can use this vibrational activation and then to speed up the. So here I will show you some of the results. Sorry. So it looks like it's okay. Yeah. So this is the construction of our using the local control theory. So this is the interpretation of the vibrational spectrum. And then the peak is about 40 wave numbers. And then here is the evolution of the reaction in the reaction coordinates and the torsion angle. So it can, we want to see the isomerization. So the torsion angle should change from 0 to orthogonal configuration. So here you can see it change along this, the evolution of it. And then this is the peak. And the peak, it's almost like overlap with the electronic field. And the second is the torsion momentum of the evolution. So in comparison with this is the evolution without control, and this is we have the control. And then we can see the reaction kinetic time from, we can reduce the reaction time from about 20 picosecond to like 18.9 picoseconds. So if we can reactivate the vibrational mode, and then the reaction can be speed up at least by almost 2 picoseconds. And the second is we can see the evolution in the reaction space. So in comparison with without control, so this is the wave packet, evolution of the wave packet. So in this, after, this is from the beginning at 0.7 picoseconds, and then you can see the evolution of all this wave package. And then in comparison with the vibrational control, and then we can reach the conical intersection within like 0.7 picoseconds. And then actually the products, there are 3 times port products. So B configuration, there are 2 types of B configuration, and also another A configuration. So it can reach different product much faster. So here, after 3.6 picoseconds, we can reach all different products. But without the vibrational control, we can only reach different products after 10 picoseconds. So this is the evidence how after the vibrational control, we can speed up the isomerization reaction. So since I'm almost running out of the time, I will just stop my talk here and would like to answer your question. Thank you. Yeah, last, I would like to appreciate last but not the least, I would like to appreciate the group members. Without them, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I would like to appreciate all my group members. Yeah, thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Jin. So any questions? Any brave student? So I have
the lady in the back.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Jin. Thank you for this nice talk. I was wondering for the complexes that are confined in cage, if you could explain a little bit about the theoretical methodology.
Yeah. So as I just mentioned, for the first case, we want to use small number of training sets. So, and then we use this, we call that confined potential energy surface. So we just need to know, but the important thing is which reaction coordinates is important for this photochemical reaction. So we find out actually, so the center distance between the gas and the host and the gas molecules is the first one, and the second one, since the ring, the gas molecule will be isomerized, so which means the ring will open. So then the carbon-oxygen bond length is also important. So in this case, and then we construct this potential energy surface. So maybe you can follow that.
Yes, I was just wondering how big is your cage? How many atoms do you have?
Okay, so for the cage, I think we have, so yeah, maybe, I think for the cage we have roughly more than 80 atoms.
Okay.
And for the gas, the molecule, we have roughly 15 atoms. So totally roughly about 100 atoms.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because we are working with some palladium type cages that can help to stabilize some reactive intermediates, but normally they have about 300 atoms. Could you use therefore the same methodology for the optimization?
Yeah, the trick is we have make a absorption spectrum for these molecules. Mm-hmm. So we find out actually the photoactivate part is just the gas molecule. There's no overlap in the absorption spectrum for the gas and the host molecule. Mm-hmm. So that's why we can use the I'm not sure whether you are familiar with the ICMM method. Mm-hmm. So that's why we don't need to treat the gas, the host, like the cage, in a very accurate, expensive method. We just use that in the MM level, like the force field level. Mm-hmm. So that's why we can make this calculation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I'm wondering whether, you need to find out whether your photoactive site is large or not. If it's not large, and then you can use this hybrid method to treat the electronic structure.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
But the trick is you need to find out which reaction coordinates contribute to the reaction. Yeah, we spend some time to find out. We just need to know these two coordinates. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
How do you prepare the samples for the machine learning simulations? Because I mean, I wonder if there's any bias if you try to input like the samples with, for example, some configuration and other not, or what happened when you choose that sample, for example, with the same configuration and not others ones. What happened with that?
Yeah, that's a very important question. That's what I'm also trying to answer myself. First, that's why at the beginning I introduced two models. So the first model, the time series model, we don't need to care about configurations. So you mean the chemical structure, right? The configuration. What do you mean? Or electronic configuration? Which?
Whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So but for photochemical reaction, at least you need to know which excited states are involved, right? Yeah. So that's why I pursue myself to develop for the time series model. So for the potential energy surface model, it's very popular and many people do that, but there's a requirement. You need to know like the chemical configuration, and you need to know the reaction, how the reaction could happen before the simulation. Then you find out, like what I said, for this case, we spend some time to find out which coordinates are important, and then we construct the potential energy surface. And even if we run like since I don't have too much time to talk about that, but for the second case, for this molecule, even it's a small molecule, so we still need more than 10,000 points to train the full potential energy surface. And so usually that's how people usually do with the active learning and the adaptive sampling. Sorry. So people usually run with the adaptive sampling and the active learning, using a lot of iterative way to find out whether the number of training set is large or enough, and then they go further. So in this case, you have at least to know what would happen in the photochemical reaction. So another case is the time series model. That's how when I talk with some, I'm a chemist. So when I talk with some physics, they ask me, if you don't know the chemical reaction, how you construct. So that's why I try to talk about this time series model. So in time series model, we don't need to know the reaction in advance. So we just run a small number of trajectory in a short time, and then we can predict for the rest. So in this case, but what I try to explain today is we constructed two models. So for the time series, in the time series method, and then in some of the case for the CNF, so this model is, we call that data driven. So in that case, we just need to care about the energy difference and the distribution of the energy difference. So we don't need to care about the chemical configuration at all. But then we find out it doesn't work all the time. So for like the second, like this case, for this case, even it's a small complex, but it doesn't work. So that's why we derived the second one. It's called the Hamiltonian neural network. In that model, we have some reaction. We have these chemical coordinates included inside of the neural network, inside of the neural network. So that's why we can include, but we don't need to know in advance which type of coordinates dominate the reaction. This is just analyzed after the trajectory. After running of the trajectories, we analyze which coordinates dominate it. So that's why we thought if we don't know the reaction in advance, maybe the time series model could help. But the problem is in comparison with the the potential energy surface model, it could speed up more than 2 orders of magnitude. For this case, it only speed up like by 2. So we want to see how long it's enough to run to predict the whole simulations. So here you see, so we need to know at least 47%. We need to know the 47% and then to predict the rest. So it's still on the way to give better advantage. Yeah, thank you.
That's nice because it's a huge shortcut respect to the to the current methods we are using for modeling this kind of dynamics. So wow, it's kind of amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, any other question? Otherwise, we thank again Jin. Thank you very much.
Thank you.